What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith, joined by Adam Bittner today, and Locked On Pirates Shorts is back. It will be on audio and, of course, on YouTube, but it is just a smaller version of what you guys usually get during the week, where me and Adam or any guest will just be talking about anything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates just in a smaller amount of time. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. I want to hear your comments on it and everything as well. I really think it's a fun time as well to kind of get this going. But thank you for making me your first listen of the day every single day, wherever you find your podcasts. And Adam, how are you doing today? Everything going wonderful for you? And Pirates baseball is officially back.
Yeah, I'll finally have some games to talk about after really nothing for a long period of time during that lockout. So this is nice.
Yeah, and I mean, Thursday was interesting. There was just so much that happened Thursday. We saw the Key Brian Hayes extension, which everybody here listening heard my reaction to already. But we did get a contract structure on it today, and we talked about it just before we started recording today. It's a front-loaded contract at $10 million a year for the first 2 years, $7 million for 2024 through 2027, and $8 million through 2028 and 2029, with a 12 mil club option, 6 mil buyout, and 76 million possible at 70 million guaranteed. So, what are your immediate thoughts from hearing the structure like that for that contract?
It's just unbelievably team friendly. It's smart, really, because usually the structure for these things is backloaded and paying a guy, like we had here with Gregory Polanco not too long ago. That was really the big problem with that contract, was they were paying him, 8 figures a year to produce poorly. If you were paying those numbers up front for some of his better production early in his career, then I don't think you would have felt as bad about some of those later years he's had here. So it's great for the Pirates, especially because they have no one else to pay right now either. And so you're paying more to keep Brian Hayes when you have no one else to pay, when you have no other commitments, and then with inflation, that $8 million that they're going to pay him, in the latter stages of the deal is going to seem like nothing. Especially if he is, a reasonably productive player. I actually had a post on postgazette.com on Friday, explaining how really you could argue that Brian Hayes' glove.
All right. I think he froze out there for a second, Adam.
Yeah, I I don't know. My internet just said it disconnected for a minute, and then I think I lost you. How
It's
much?
all,
How much did you hear?
I heard basically about the team friendly thing, but also, what the fun part about Locked on Pirates Shorts is we have bloopers. You know what? Why not? So we'll go back to what you were saying, Adam. But I did hear you say that you thought that it was a very team friendly deal and that they weren't paying anybody else right now. So that's why you're kind of happy about front loading it as well.
Right, absolutely. And the other thing I was saying is I did a post at postgazette.com on Friday saying, basically that you're paying for his glove. Really, that's really all you're paying for in this deal is he's a great defender. That was almost all of his 1.5 wins above replacement last year was his defense. That's not something that's going to fluctuate much on a year-to-year basis, and so you're probably going to be able to expect at least that baseline level of production from him throughout the course of this deal, which almost makes anything he does with the bat, kind of all upside and all bonus for the Pirates. If he rounds into something like a 4 or 5 win player, let alone an Andrew McCutchen, MVP type of guy, you're going to be looking at this deal as right up there with the McCutchen deal as one of the greatest steals in team history.
Of course, yeah. And also in some other news, of course, I wanted to say shout out to Key Brian Hayes for getting this contract. Hopefully, it's the start of the Pirates actually handing these out a little bit more to some of their good talent, but that good talent has to come on the way. And another guy who we saw last year, who I didn't expect to see this early, but of course, with the injury bug just killing the Pirates on Thursday on opening day, Roansy Contreras, of course, will be heading to Pittsburgh now with the injury to Dwayne Underwood. Personally, if he isn't starting, I don't like the move, but also it is kind of a component of just poor roster structure, considering he is the only 40-man pitcher right now that's on the 40-man roster that wasn't in Pittsburgh. So that's interesting to say the least. But what do you think that we'll see from Roansy, if we see really anything at all while he's up here initially in Pittsburgh rather than Indianapolis because of the Dwayne Underwood injury?
Yeah, it's hard to get a read on exactly what the plan is with him. You would expect the fact that he started in AAA, excuse me, signals that they probably want to manipulate his service time too in some way. Which makes sense. Given the state of the Pirates pitching staff. So I think it'll be interesting to see if if he gets his chance to maybe pitch a little bit up here and then go down. I think the important thing is to keep him on a regular schedule. You're going to probably be limiting his innings. He's a young guy. You can do some of that limiting the innings on the front end rather than the back end, rather than having to shut him down late in the season. So I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing for him to be in Pittsburgh, maybe getting a few innings in the big leagues, even if it's not, a start. And then you can kind of build him up toward the end of the season once you hope he's in Pittsburgh for good anyway.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I mean, it's always good to see these guys get MLB experience. Even last year with him and Cruz coming up for the end of the year, it was like, okay, cool, they played 1 or 3 games, but at least they have the experience factor to say, okay, I already have played in the majors, so when I come back, it won't feel as weird. And I think that's like a big deal for me as well. And of course, I think Roansy is a big component to fixing the starting rotation. And JT Brubaker, of course, on opening day didn't look great. Excuse me. But what do we expect from Zach Thompson, Bryce Wilson, and Mitch Keller through the remainder of this series? And do you think that they can, get this ball rolling a little bit for the Pittsburgh Pirates after a tough opening day?
Well, I think what you want to see, especially from Mitch Keller, but probably everyone else, is some consistency, and I think that's really going to be the key for this Pirates rotation, is who can, we've seen what these guys can all do when they're pitching well, and I think especially in Mitch Keller's case, he can look great some days and not others, and it's about stringing good starts together. So getting off to a good start now is important. But really, I don't think it's going to be until we're getting into 4 or 5, 6 weeks into the season before we ever really have a feel for where these guys are going to go. I think if these guys all have great starts this weekend, the Pirates win some games. Yeah, that's a reason to get excited in the short term, but in the long run, you want to see them be able to keep doing it, keep posting the good efforts, and not slip into what we saw last year, where there were just nights that guys got shelled and the Pirates were out of the game early, and it didn't matter what the offense did. That's the hallmark of a bad team. It's the hallmark of a bad rotation. And if things are going to change, it's not just about doing it in this series, but it's about doing it, start after start, week after week.
Of course. And any predictions for the rest of this series? Do you think that we're going to see anything really good to talk about? Well, obviously, there'll be a lot of stuff to talk about, but any predictions for the rest of this series heading through Monday?
No, not really. I think it's so early in the season. Sample size kind of like it's the blessing and the curse, right? Because you can get excited for a couple of solid starts in a row, and you can get really discouraged after a game like the Pirates played Thursday. I don't think that Thursday is going to be the rule, and if they play well the rest of the weekend, I don't think that will be either. I think they're going to fall somewhere in between. So, I think if I'm going to make a prediction, it's going to be they're not going to lose 9-0 the next 2 days. they're going to look more competitive and at least watchable for this first couple of months of the season.
Yeah, and on today's episode of the Locked On Pirates Shorts, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Adam, for coming on as always. It'll be Mitch Keller and Miles Mikolos today at 2:15 Eastern in Game 2 of 162. I will be live tweeting over at Bucks in the Basement. I'm sure Adam will be doing some stuff over at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. But until next time, guys, we will see you on the flip side.